everybody. Welcome to another hour-long conversation with some of my friends in the Gene Keys community. My name is Matthew Ashdown. I'm a Gene Keys guide, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today, which will be with Maria Soroka. And we are going to have a conversation about many things. We've already been tapping into the field and exploring what might be emerging, and I think it'll be of interest to many people here. So I'm looking forward to this. And one of the things that was showing up for me, some of you know that I work with the Dream Arc, and the dream arc being these beautiful beings that we experience in our everyday lives, some of us, or maybe through our dreams. It's another offering through the Gene Keys from the Gene Keys community, and I have a deep resonance with it. And as I was paying attention to what was happening throughout my day before coming together today, was that the sheep were popping up. And I'm about to make a trip to Wales in a few weeks, and if there's anything that Wales is known for, it's their sheep. And so I was like, okay, I can take that for perspective of that. But I also like to, okay, there was just a few too many things related to sheep showing up today. So I pulled this up, and we'll just open up with this. Perhaps sheep is our guide today. And now the sheep is part of what's called the changers category. And we are going to be talking about this theme of change a little bit today. We'll be exploring it. So it seems appropriate that sheep might be our guide. So this is just the guidance from the sheep. We'll open up with this, and then we'll welcome in Maria for a conversation. And now one of the other things too is that if you're working with the Gene Keys as well, that the sheep is related to the 23rd Gene Key. So it's about rebellious simplicity. Rebellious. Rebellion might be a theme of today too. We'll see. I am sheep. Perhaps you were hoping for a tiger or a powerful creature like a bear. Right there is my first lesson, that all is not as it seems. Perhaps that which appears weak is the most powerful of all. You may not consciously choose me, but your unconscious has done so. I have the exact recipe to resolve all the difficulties in your life. You should meditate on that. I invite you to make an altar in your home and place me at its core. I invite you to breathe my soft spirit into every corner of your life. I have two faces, the mild and the simple, and the fiery and the rebellious. Whichever of those describes your character more, you need the other. So those of us who might identify with the black sheep, perhaps we need to connect with the other sheep in the herd today. Begin by simplifying your life and your mind. Take each of your challenges and apply whichever face is needed. Is gentle compassion needed in this situation? Is fiery compassion needed? How can you make life easier for yourself and those you love? Probably the answer to that question lies mostly in how you approach others. The mildness of the sheep is its power. Remember this. Can you be gentle with yourself? Can you soften your inner life so much that all flows smoothly around you, like water rounding the harsh edges of rocks? Most people have need of this inner softness more than any other quality. The fiery quality of the black-faced you is usually only needed from time to time in situations where stronger boundaries are called for. And finally, I'm a deeply feminine symbol. I invite you to simplify your life. Who doesn't dream of such a life? The way to simplicity often passes through great complexity. I am a powerful changer, so there may be some deep unraveling ahead of you. How will you loosen all these knots you have tied? You may choose to do so one at a time, gently, with great patience and care. We do not wish to harm others, while sometimes that is also inevitable. Have the courage then to make me central to your life, a symbol you learn to love dearly, and I will give you all you have ever dreamed of. So perhaps we now begin to see the sheep in a new way. And we'll invite that spirit of change into this space today as we have a conversation about it. And some of see what some of that transmission brings into this space. I always like to think of it as the sheep is just going to be sitting here quiet, or I should say quietly, might be bleating away, who knows, while we're having our conversation. And so without further ado, I would like to invite, in the spirit of the sheep, I would like to invite into the herd, into the flock today, Maria Soroka, who is another Gene Keys guide. And I'll just get Maria to introduce herself briefly. I know that she's based in the UK, somewhere I'll be heading very soon. But yeah, Maria, can you just briefly give us a bit of an intro to who you are, where you are, and then we can begin exploring, looking at some of your relationship to the Gene Keys after that.
Oh, thank you, Matthew. That was just, oof, it got me really deep, you know, the theme. Yeah, that sheep popped up a few times and it popped up really timely. Theme of gentleness, compassion, also towards myself. Theme about boundaries, you know, fiery sheep versus like gentle sheep, I think it's said. So it's like lots of themes resonate. But yeah, we definitely will explore all of them. Not all of them, but many of them, hopefully. And so I'm Maria. I'm based in the UK. I was born in Russia. Actually, I was born in former Soviet Union, and it's actually also very relevant to the theme of change that we are going to explore today. As I saw lots of changes in my life, you know, both external and internal. And so formally I am a business woman. I am also a psychologist and a master coach, and I'm a Gene Keys guide as well. And I'm a big fan of Gene Keys, and I really appreciate to be invited here today into this space and to share some stories with you, Matthew. And yeah, so I guess what is big now in my life is that I'm moving from leaving behind the business that I've been building for the last more than 4 years, and stepping into completely unknown territory for me. Well, building the new business that will be connected with spirituality, with change, I guess, with some trickster energy, and and with Gene Keys, of course, as well. So we will see what will evolve. I have a vision, but I don't have any details yet. So I'm just feeling into what's inviting, what wants to come through me into this world. But yeah, this is who I am and where I am.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And because I know that there's a lot of people probably who are watching this, and a lot of people that I meet in the world of Gene Keys, is that people are going through big transitions and big changes. And very often it is this, there's a lot of folks that are like moving out of the corporate world and moving out of what no longer serves, and they want to simplify. And so I imagine this is something, or I have a sense this is something we get to explore today, and with the welcoming arms of the sheep, shall we say, as we journey through this together today. And so, yeah, just even hearing, growing up in the former Soviet Union and the changes, and so change has been a big part of your life, and it continues to be. And you mentioned this trickster, and the who I'm sure is working with and through you in every moment, whether we're even aware of it or not. This little trickster energy, but so many people are making these shifts and changes and going through this evolution, and yet everything that came before is something that they draw upon in the here and the now. So this would be really something cool to explore. And so, of course, when we come to the Gene Keys, they can be, especially if we dive right in, they can be this real initiation There can be this great initiation in this way. And it sounds like that's a bit of what's happened in your life. So how did you come across, or how did the Gene Keys find you? That's like, I kind of like to ask it that way. It's like, how long ago and how did that come across your path?
Yeah. I probably start before I met Gene Keys. So, and I shared with you briefly when we spoke before, is that I was in the business for almost or more than 20 years. So I've been working in big corporates, then I was building the startup, which is connected to, again, this like marketing and serving the corporates as well. But I'm a psychologist. So kind of learning my own nature. And actually, what was calling me at the first place when I choose psychology when I was like a teenager, it was clear feeling that this field will guide me somewhere. This is where I want to go. And we both have very, intellectual families, like father and mother, who are like very brainy, and very left brain. So, but I felt that psychology can kind of help me to break through this. But then there was a big changes happening in like post-Soviet Union, my parents lost the jobs. And I found that was very straightforward way to very quickly earn some money to go into the corporates. So that's what I did. And because I'm a smart girl, I can do everything. I can learn lots of things. And I'm good in many things. So I started doing things that I was good at, not necessarily enjoying them very much, but just, okay, this is the way I can earn money. While the field of like, human interactions, like how you can really see and not, like really sense what you cannot see, how you can really invite this experience. It's difficult. Nothing was there at this moment, so like, but there was like clear world of business. So this is how you can, this is how you can live your life. So it was very obvious. But then I was always trying to get back on this path, to really see beyond what can be seen with the eyes, And then a few years ago, I was working still in the corporates. I experienced like, I actually became really sick. So my body told me, like, what, it has to stop. And we were talking a little bit about, also embodied intelligence and like your body intelligence, your body knows. So my body said, like, it has to stop. So I got really sick, and I got earlier stage cancer. So it was treatable. It was very, like, I managed to go through very quickly, but it was a sign for me I have to leave. But also then I found this absolutely amazing coaching technique that I'm still using, because it's called embraining. And I know that, we probably will talk a little bit about influencing, what really deeply influenced me in my past. And so it is coaching using the whole body intelligence, the heart brain. And I learned that we have actually neuron system in the heart, and not just in the brain, and also the gut brain, and also autonomic nervous system. And that was all fascinating to me. And then I started feeling, while I was doing this work, I started feeling into spaces, how I connect with people, and how I feel in something in my body, which is not necessarily mine. And that really brought me back to being in this space, being in the experience of now. And we are in the transiting through the 20th gene key, which is presence. So how to be here and now, and really how to use this, use whatever comes to me and whatever comes, and I have those sensations in the body. When I tune into a person, I have sensations in my body. And I started to exploring this further. And then my friend told me about Gene Keys. And so I went, I think it's a common story. I went to www.genekeys.com and built my profile. And when I read the paragraphs, and I know if someone doesn't know, you can build your profile, and then there are 4 paragraphs about you. And they were so spot on, yet they were, I knew that it was me, but then I didn't know that it was me. It was like me, how to say, Maria living her full life, and it was completely clear to me that this is where, this is my aspiration. But I felt, on the other hand, very disappointed, I think, that it's not my life right now, what I'm reading there. And so, but it was 2020, everyone went into lockdown, and there was this online retreats available, and I just jumped on the first one, which happened to be activation sequence. So yeah, and then it was just fascinating, and still for me fascinating how deep it goes. But on the other hand, it can sound complex, but it's very simple if you really read and feel it with your heart. So when I opened the book the first time, the big book, like this book, when I opened it the first time, I just read, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's completely clear to me. There was nothing that was like, oh, I don't understand it. Because I felt that it goes straight into my heart. It doesn't have anything to do with my super smart brain, it's just like, whew. And since that, I'm working with Gene Keys as a living transmission, inviting Gene Keys, into my life, experiencing them in the moment. Like today, we were talking, and sheep appeared, seeing the situations that come to me, and especially challenging situations, through the eyes of, what this is telling me. So what I need to contemplate now, sit with what I need now. So what wants to come through me right now. And this approach is really compassionate approach towards yourself, because you're not judging yourself. You're not telling yourself like, oh, you're so bad. Well, I do it still. But being gentle, it's not a weakness, it's your strengths. Is because doing this, you can really face your fears, like you can know your fears. So this is, for me, it's just genius. I mean, like, I feel deep gratitude to Richard and to this book and to Art of Contemplation, which I think everyone should just have as a, table book, because it's so simple. It's like I learned, I don't know how many years I learned psychology, coaching, I don't know, no psychotherapy. And this book is just, it doesn't throw it all, because it's still like, embodied wisdom, what you learned, but it's just so amazing. It's so to the point, very straightforward. Even my husband read it, and he said, oh yeah, I know half of this. But still, he's just like, yeah, it's so clear. So I definitely, posing, sitting with whatever comes is just brilliant. So yeah, that's it. I think we can close.
Yeah, there we go. Mission accomplished. The simplicity of the moment that is here right now. Thank you, sheep. That was easy. And I don't have a copy of The Art of Contemplation in front of me, but that is the simple, you know, Richard had this book, The Gene Keys, which Maria was just showing there. I don't know why I don't have, I've got a big stack of these Gene Keys books. I don't know why I haven't got them all sitting here right now, so I can just show them. But the big Gene Keys book that many people are familiar with is sometimes sitting on people's shelves for 3 or 4 years. That's the one before they come to it, right? It's the um, and then Richard sat with this, and I think he received reflections from the community, and he brought through this art of contemplation, and it really is. I think if there's anything, we undervalue the simple, and yet the simple can be so profound. And so I love what you're sharing there too about just like what's showing up here in life. And I also love, when we explore the pearl, it's prosperity through simplicity. It's prosperity through simplicity. That's such a key when we're working with the pearl and our individual prosperity. And so here you are, you're going through this shift from, the corporate world can be quite complex. It can give me a bit of a headache when I think of all the things that go on in the corporate world, and to breathe simplicity into that, into the complexity, which is, like you said, which is what Richard has done here. But something that you're speaking to throughout the shares so far that I think is really powerful for a lot of people, like when you saw your profile, and there's that sense of sadness of, oh, this is me, but that's not where I am at this time and this change. And what I'm kind of wondering too is like how because you've been in corporate world, you've been in corporate management, and so people are seeing you and they're loving the work that you're doing, and yet there's some part of you that's like, this isn't who I am. And so how has that been? How have you how have you worked with that in life? Just briefly for myself, I was trained. I went to university as an aerospace engineer, very left brain. And I was good at it. I was good at the maths. I was good at the science, and I still like that to an extent. But at the same time, I had insomnia throughout university. I never slept throughout my whole university. And then I graduated, I flew to Canada, and I haven't had insomnia since. And so like how we make life complicated by being other than who we are. And so I'd love to hear some of your reflections on this, like the expectations others have of you versus you really listening to your own heart. Has that been easy transition, or does it feel like you against the world at times?
Mm. Oh, I love this. I love what you shared about insomnia. I actually had, so it's funny because like now I'm going through I think, the most challenging period of my life, I would say, yet I'm sleeping like a log. I don't know, maybe my husband will say, oh, you always sleep like a log, but I used to have such a bad anxiety in the mornings. And now I know that's because it's not because I was fearful of the future. Is that what I was fearful of my life that time? Because I wasn't living my purpose. I wasn't living my truth. So, and that's so amazing. Again, let's come back to the body, right? So, I learned, and it's another learning for a person who been, even in uni, the psychology was very head-based. Like, and even my daughter is now, she's studying psychology for her GCSEs, is like exams in English in England. So it's very much theories, still. Then psychotherapy is a lot of talk, honestly, not helping. I've been doing myself psychotherapy and been in therapy. It was like, okay, let's stop talking, let's go straight into like what hurts. But we're like beat around the bushes all the time. So yeah, but what started, and it's interesting because what comes to me, and I know we agreed not to talk a lot about about numbers, about like 47 blah 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 Jinky, but what comes to me is this is a sphere in the Gene Keys profile, which is called core wound. which really unlocks the wounds that we all come into the world. And it's not necessarily how to say, it's really profound, because you kind of we all carry not just trauma of our lives, but our generational trauma as well. And for me, like this wound that I carry, and Richard, he puts kind of the key and the another number is like what how to name this specific wound that you carry, and you here to transmute. And I am actually carrying this wound of oppression. And this oppression, when I am talking about it, this is how it shows and been shown in my life. So being born in the country which has a long history of oppression, and look what my country is doing now. My country is now oppressing, trying to oppress another country. It's just, but oppressing its citizens as well. So putting them in the prison and so on. So it's been a story of oppression through centuries in Russia, but also my individual oppression is like how much more I have to oppress these feelings of what needs to come out, living my truth, living my purpose, living my values from my heart. So, and it's funny because that's also the guidance about once you really face your core wound and really live through it, you really heal it. You can heal it, and then it becomes your vocation, your true vocation. And so I feel that my true vocation is actually my calling in this. What I have to transmute is this oppression as this fear of being rejected. So the fear of not being a black sheep, exactly like you said. Hello, sheep, being a black sheep. So, and it's been my story, like I was trying to fit into different communities where I was recognized for something that I was doing good, but not for something that I was really enjoying doing. That was my passion. And then I started to tell myself those stories. Okay, but you're good in this. Why you should move to doing this job if you're good in it? Like, you're a smart guy, you're building airplanes. Why not? You just have insomnia, but who cares, So it's like so for me, it's just, so the interesting thing that in the flip side of this oppression, once you transform it, and I feel this oppression is like, it's very alchemical here. So you press something, like, you put a lot of pressure, physical pressure under to the point where and I'm not neither good in physics nor in chemistry, so but I'm good in like imagination. So when I'm imagining something being truly oppressed, I was doing a lot of martial arts in the past. So, and if you really try, hard to squeeze, to oppress, if you do this, if someone oppresses you and you are trying to push, then it's interesting, then nothing will happen. You cannot free yourself from just, especially if, from pushing, or like, actually apply strengths. And so, hello, sheep, the gentleness comes back to us, that you actually need to relax completely. And that's very interesting, because for me, relaxation is actually goes into the breathing, and breath goes in straight into the heart space. And physical, if we breathe very deeply, it actually, and in certain way, it actually impacts the heart rhythm. So the heart rhythm become very even, heart variability rate becomes like do is like a song, so beautiful. So for me, it's like that's what we can do. And then the heart opens because it relaxes. It doesn't need to be like or so it becomes relaxed in a way. So heart never can relax in a sense, but it's like kind of it given you this natural rhythm, so your body can relax and you can function at your best. So this is physiology, but then it's actually what happens is like when you in this space, the heart can open, you can really feel what happens, mm, and you really can feel into what your values are, what is important to you, and what brings you joy. And so I would say that, like, if there will be someone asking me, what will be your advice for people who like changing, in the rapid change, I would say, like, just listen to your heart and what your values are, what is important to you, not what you think important to you, but what you feel is important to you. So that's what saved me a lot, because especially now when I'm trying, I'm kind of trying to break free, doing this, how say, compassionate closure, what Richard was talking about into the mystic event. It's hard because people, they say, but you're so good at it, why you are leaving? Like, where's with, like, business is growing, revenue is coming, like, we're growing like crazy, why are you leaving? You're so good at it. She's like, okay, it's not what I'm enjoying doing anymore. Like, that's my values, as my vision and aspiration somewhere else. So yeah, simple, listen to your heart. That's it.
Yes. Yeah, listen to the heart, and then it's the acting on it that can yeah, it takes that. But like you said, the relaxing into it. And yeah, thank you for sharing all that. I love what you shared just there at the end too about values. I think that's such an important aspect of it, is that I find myself in this Gene Keys community with a group of people that I align, the values are aligned there. It feels really good. I've been parts of many different communities and I've been afraid of the herd. I felt like the black sheep that wanted to be away from the herd, but it was just, that aligning with the herd that shares those values. And I find a lot of that in the Gene Keys community, which I really appreciate. And so, the same with the work that we do, in our day-to-day lives. It's like, is it truly aligned that way in the values? And when we're, especially when we are good at something, like that's what I see a lot in the Gene Keys community, is people are very gifted and talented and they're good at things, and they also have a lot of passions, and it's like, well, which are the passions that I follow out into the world? And I think, it's that discernment piece. And I know we said we weren't going to talk about numbers, but we did talk briefly about your chart beforehand. And it's like through your hearing, this is what I love about it. It's like people first, numbers second is what Richard would say to us in this work with the Gene Keys, which I absolutely resonate with, because I've had people look at my chart and say that I'm nothing like their chart expected them, and other people saying I'm exactly like the chart expected them to be, me to be. But it's that people first, numbers second, in the sense that, oh wow, now I'm hearing the depth of Maria being shared here. Suddenly it's like her whole chart lights up in my eyes here. And I can't help but notice the themes of heresy that run right through your chart. Like, you've got the 8th gene key twice in your culture, and your pearl for one. The 8th gene key, it demands expressing its uniqueness. It will never be satisfied if it's expressing anything that has been pushed and shoved upon it by another. So you marry that with the oppression. And then also the line 5 that is here to birth this new consciousness. And not only that, in our conversations, I know she has the 19th gene key, which also has this dilemma of heresy. And so I feel this kind of coming into this space here too. And this has been a conversation that's been quite alive in many spaces that I'm part of. is this theme of heresy and what being the heretic is. And I feel that the sheep is this kind of gentle reminder for many of us, because how many of us, we identify with being the heretic, and I think this is the challenge in identifying. We identify with becoming the heretic, and so the herd is the last thing we want to, we feel safe in sometimes, or what that might be. And so I love that it's the sheep here that is coming to work with us in the herd of sheep, that we've had our own experiences with recently, both Maria and I. And it's just that it's like here speaking to those that might see themselves as these heretics. And so the courage it takes to be a heretic. A friend of mine was saying before, it used to be that he was afraid to be a heretic because being burned at the stake. And how many people I've met who are healers who have the witch burning past life memories, or the being burned at the stake, or fighting for a cause or something like that, and the heretic in that way. But now his perspective is, I'm actually afraid of not being the heretic. Like, we need this heretical energy, and I'm hearing this kind of coming through you and expressing through you in this. And so I kind of have there's this inkling of a question, as it were, around, as a child, were you kind of like the rebel child? Was this natural to you? Was this something that, do you feel like you were more, did you feel like you're more trying to fit in even as the child, or were you kind of an expressive individual, trickstery rebel as a child?
Well, it's interesting question, because I definitely was very lively, energetic person. When I was born, I remember I was just like running. I remember one thing. When I was really small, I just loved my friends. So I would just run to embrace them like this. I was just like, yeah. And it's interesting because that's a lot of painful memories come through when you ask this question, because I guess it wasn't my how to say, like, it wasn't my initial, how to say, it wasn't my nature necessarily to be a rebel, but I was so interrupted when I was a child, because I was like, my mom, from the very beginning, she thought I won't fit in. I don't know why she had this, but it was really interesting because she was telling those stories. First of all, she didn't want me because she was already almost 40 years old. And so she wanted to do an abortion because she thought that it's too late for a kid. And she used to have a boyfriend who I think was married, and she did few abortions before me. So, as like, in a sense, is really, like, recently there was a topic when I was like exploring my co-wounds, the topic of being not a first child came through, even though I'm the only child. I'm always the only child, but not really, so this ancestral themes that come through. And but she was like, so I was interrupted even then with my flow. Then I was born, and she was really anxious because when she became pregnant, my grandmother, her mother, became really sick. She had bipolar. So when I was born, my mom was like, okay, but she should be a really unhappy child, really, because I was anxious. She shouldn't be all right because something will be wrong with her. And everything was fine with me. I was fine. I was healthy, more or less. I wasn't just I was smiling all the time, and I wasn't necessarily very much into. She said, oh, I couldn't feed you, you was refusing food. I said, Mom, it's not normal, child. That means that I was not hungry, like, you don't know how, but because they waited, how much milk you should have. I think I didn't have. So she was like, no, you were like losing weight. I said, Mom, this is all nonsense. It's like, I don't believe that, like, but she said, no, no, no. So everything was wrong with me from the very beginning. So it feels like, I was kind of placed as a black sheep at the very beginning without even being the black sheep. So then it was like I won't say that I was a necessarily black sheep, but it wasn't for me easy to find my tribe. It was, and I was obviously, when I was in teenagerhood, I was like, alternative chic, like, wearing like alternative clothes, playing in the rock band. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely a rebel, but it wasn't, it was just a part of me being, but I was very insecure, inside. So I feel like this, we were talking about projections. So lots of people place a lot of projection on me. So that's what I always feel it. I feel it, so I think that's where so for me, the heresy is actually not necessarily you standing there and like, you know what, I'm not gonna do what you tell me. Or it can be like this as a fiery ship, right? But it's actually saying to yourself, you know what, it's not mine. And no is an answer. No is also an answer. And I think this is where we started about boundaries as well. There was one of the messages for us. So I feel that heresy could be, you know what, no, it's not mine. I don't, I'm not buying into your story. You're trying to feed me. And for me, this is a heresy. It's like all the heretics we think about, they actually said, I'm actually not buying into this story, which is a common story, that there was that the earth was flat. Okay, we're not buying into this story. And now there is some people who saying that the earth is actually flat.
Yes.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe it has a square, or I don't know, cube. But I mean, I feel like, but it is how it feels for you. What is your truth, and your truth is always in your heart, I believe, because stories are like what you think is not necessarily what you feel. When you attuned, when your heart is relaxed, you really feel into like, yeah, what I really want. So yeah, for me, and then telling this to people, it can be heresy, can be seen as heresy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love, again, you brought in the sheep there, because it's about rebellious simplicity, and one of some of the conversation around it recently as well. And I'm just looked back on my life where I wouldn't say I haven't been the loud, like you said, the black sheep kind of like rebel in that way, but necessarily, but it's like the ways in which we are the heretic that we maybe don't even necessarily appreciate. Like you just said, saying no to something that doesn't fit. I think most of the Gene Keys work is heresy in this sense, and it's like we live in a world that is about moving fast and doing everything quickly and getting, and creating complexity, really, in a lot of ways. And it's the heresy is actually, no, we're going for simplicity. We're going to slow down. Like you talked about in meeting oppression, right? The traditional way of meeting oppression was fists raised and launching at it. And you said, relax. That's pretty heretical. But I love in hearing your journey with it too, because I have a lot of keys as well in my chart. That I have the 8 and I have the 26 as well, and it's like the trickster, but also there's the heretic in that, or the rebel in that sense. And definitely in my own childhood, I could relate to what you were sharing there, because it's like, here's this seed wound that we're planted with this deep fear of rejection, and that fear of rejection and how we work with that, determining how we respond to that nature within ourselves. And I really feel it is giving ourselves a pat on the back when instead of doing for the sake of doing, we're turning inwards and we're becoming and we're being, and that our actions come from that place of being instead. And so for me, that's a form of heresy. That do we value that to the same extent in our world? I think there's space for all of it, all of it. I just know that there's a lot of people, myself included, I wouldn't have ever said I was the heretic, but then when I look back on my life in many ways, it's like, oh yeah, yeah. Like even coming from a family, like you said, we're both. One of my jokes in my family is there's more PhDs than people in my family, and I did go for a PhD, but I didn't actually follow through with it. And my left brain got defragmented a little bit when I came to Canada, and then there was a lot of more. It birthed, the connection with nature and everything like that just opened up so much. And so I love having this, exploring this, because now it's like, oh, now I know why the sheep's here, right? It's like it's so alive in everything that you've been sharing here. And so, we've covered so much, and how are you navigating the changes at this time right now? Like, are there challenges that are coming up as you, not are there, like, are there challenges that you want to speak to? Anything like, the realness of us making these transitions, because it's like we're embodying these cities and we're stepping into these gifts, and yet our shadows still creep, or at least mine do. I can only speak for myself here, but I notice my shadows creeping into moments, and I'm wondering how, like, you're navigating that, and your thoughts for anybody who might be watching this and going through a big period of change in their life, cultivating that rebel energy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. I guess I will just share something that came through in my conversation with my friend and your friend Marie Hoffman today, which is very much alive. So yesterday I had an episode which was very shameful for me and very discomfortable, not comfortable for me at all, when I was just going on, really being triggered and, really reacting not in a nice way on someone from my team, and the team meeting in front of other people. And that was, so I was in this energy. I felt sick, not sick, but I didn't feel good physically afterwards, because my body now is so, it becomes more and more tuned in. Before I neglected my body, and now I'm listening to my body. And my body told me, it's not okay. You're out of balance, girl. You're out of balance, girl. And it was hard to breathe. It was hard to ground myself. So whatever I was doing, and I didn't have a chance yesterday to go outside, because always being at nature, being in the forest, like barefoot or just be there, it helps, but I couldn't. And again, it's like, again, what I'm listening to, what is my choice. So, and I'm telling this story because I was in the morning today, I was really not in a good place. I was in this raw place, but I also allowed myself not to move away from this uncomfortable space. And this is what I learned via Gene Keys, allow, accept, embrace. So I allowed whatever comes to speak. And I was really inquiring what wants to speak, what wants to be heard at this moment, because even though it was very uncomfortable. And I shared something with Marie in the message, and she called me. So, and it's also magic of Gene Keys. I think it's magic, and it's magic of when you start making these small shifts, they may be invisible. That I think this is what one of my biggest advices or biggest learnings, that I was always, taming the power of the big, like 26, I see big vision. But actually, we need to remember there's always a small steps that bring us somewhere. So if we really see and respect and really honor these small shifts, small, small moments of awareness, and really pat ourselves and say, well done, then we will get really, the universe will provide. So universe provided Maria immediately, who called. So she kind of held the space when I was trying to navigate and trying to use, this, her as a mirror of what really happened. So why I was reacting this way. And, we can do it with ourselves, but it's really good if someone can hold the space in this, because you're really raw. Someone who can actually allow you to go into this and see and really see, can I face this? What is it? What is it? Without judging is important. It's like when you kind of gently hold this space with compassion for yourself or someone else. And then I kind of saw everything. I saw this fear. I saw this caged animal in myself that wants to, that's like, oh my gosh, I want to break free. And then that's like, there's like, they trying to close me in this cage. And this is like this. And I said like, oh, okay. Hello. Can I pet you, So I guess for me, so navigate and change, I would say the first is definitely, be gentle always. Like, not, if you start having this judgmental dialogue that, oh my gosh, I screwed up again because, like, I'm not that spiritual because I'm like, I'm shouting on people regularly, I do actually. So, but I'm like, okay, but I'm moving through something. And when I make the small shifts of awareness, is like, what actually happening here? Okay, this is like my boundaries being really pushed, so it's a sign for me. So that's, everything is a sign. So then, okay, treat it with, sorry, what is happening? Is it, I'm still here? Yeah. So, yeah. So small changes, small shifts as even more important than the big ones. And they built into, new patterns, new behaviors, new everything, new life. Gentleness. If you're reacting, that means someone steps into your zone. So use it as a not necessarily reacting back on person, but like, okay, as a sign, okay, this is where I need to build my boundaries. This is like where I need to sit with it, and I need to pause. Yeah. More pauses, as you said, definitely. And and there's some recently came through me as well, as like, if you're good in something, but you are not enjoying this, it's not your thing. So just ditch it, completely. And even if people telling you how good you are and ABC, it doesn't mean that you need to go this way. So go with what really brings you joy. And even if it's scary as hell, still go there. So that definitely would be my, whatever advice, or what I'm trying to tell myself every day.
Yeah. And it sounds like you are telling yourself that. And that for me is one of the, like you said, joining with Maria in that way, and just being able to hold space for one another. And because, I think we've maybe, at least in my own experience, I've revealed those parts of myself to people when it wasn't safe and it was used against me at times, and I've probably done the same to others, and to be in that space. And it's one of the reasons that I just, I love this, is we're embracing our humanity and our divinity, and in turn realizing that it's all part of the same thing, and that that, yeah, because especially when you talk about anger and reaction, like I have the 49th gene key twice, and it carries that shadow of reaction. It's like, oh my gosh. And I am not as reactive as I used to be, but I can be reactive. And at the same time, I'm witnessing myself in that now. That's what I heard, is that, it's like I'm not an enlightened master who never, has those moments in that way, but I'm mastering it in my day to day. And I'm aware of it, and I'm seeing myself, and that's shifting, and that gentleness and forgiving ourselves, I think is so huge. And I think we both share as well. We said we're not dropping all these numbers, but it just flows out. We both share the second gene key. And for me, the second gene key, it's the feminine. Not for me, it is the feminine. It's the complete, the receptive, the yin, welcoming in all of life, opening up to all of life and being all of life. And so for me, I love it because it's like, yeah, to be in a space where I can reveal my weaknesses, experience that, share my pain, and not be less than because of that. It's like, if there's anything the second gene key has shown me, is that healing is messy at times. And we're in this time, this isn't about perfection. We're all perfectly imperfect. And I think I hear that in your share there. And, and I think if anything, what I heard overarching as a theme throughout this, for anybody who's listening, is Maria saying, don't listen to the shoulds and what everybody's telling you you're good at and should be doing, and listen to the heart. And sometimes that's the bravest step that we take. And those small and subtle, like the appreciation of the small, the subtle, because I don't know what all the big steps in my future. We're going through a big change right now, folks. Where the sheep is one of the changers. We're going through this big change, right? Simplifying is helpful. So, working with the next step is what we can do. The next known step, listening to that intuition. So I just want to thank Maria for coming on and sharing her rebellious simplicity with us here today. And is there any final thoughts you wanted to share before we begin to close up today?
I just want to say thank you for inviting me. Yeah, it would be nice to finish with something as well. Nothing comes through. It's like, I think I said everything, but I would say one thing is just, follow your heart and be courageous. Whatever you feel is here is the right thing. So, and we have this, so I love this trickster energy. So if you know small tricks, you can play with your mind, for instance. Like, it's probably useful for you to hear that when you say to yourself, I should, or I have to, that's actually not what you really need to do, because it's your mind, because all shoulds and haves, they've been kind of, learned by you, and they came from others. So it's just like, it's a trick. So once you hear this, okay, it's not my thing, move on.
Move on. Boundaries have been set. I love that. Yes. Again, thank you. Simple and profound guidance we can all follow. And I have to share that I was going to finish, in the dream arc, there's always a contemplation with each of these creatures. And I want to finish with the contemplation from the sheep. And I have a feeling that you'll just hear every one of Maria's words echoed throughout this. And so she's already set the homework for you. Homework. Shoulds. Only if you feel called from the heart to do it. But here, these are the final words from the sheep today, who I feel has been quite the steward and the guide in unexpected ways. I wasn't planning it. In no way did I think Maria or I think we were going to be working with sheep today, but sheep seems to have brought through a pretty concise message that resonates with who Maria is. So for some people, overgenerosity can be an escape from self-love. We can become trapped in patterns of overcommitment, in which we allow ourselves to be taken advantage of by others. In this sense, the foundation of generosity is firm personal boundaries. Like a river with a strong bank, we also need healthy boundaries to direct the current of our generosity in a way that serves both others and ourselves. And so I feel that resonates with what Maria shared there. And so in that spirit of generosity, folks, we are in service to the world and ourselves, and we can do the work that makes us come alive. So thank you, Maria. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week. We've got more guides. Peter Tung and Zia Cole will be with us next week. And beyond that, we will be bringing more and more guides and people from the Gene Keys community and just people that I like to interview into this space. So thank you, Maria. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week.